this new wave of talent, and you know, listeners of this show, I've said it. I mean, these guys are so good now. I mean, Connor Bedard.
The skill level is outrageous.
I mean, the next generation, I mean, let's face it. What's up, everybody? Talking Trash Podcast. We are back at it again, and what a special episode, all right? It is officially technically opening night, the NHL in North America. My Devils played in Prague this past weekend, and we have a crazy great NHL preview show with our friend, Hockey Insider. You can catch her on all social platforms at Seriously Jane. My good friend, Jane Beup. How's it going, Jane?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, we let you come even with that hat on.
I know.
It's all right.
I know. It's a thing.
We let you in with the Bruins hat, but that's all right. We had to represent it. It is the NHL. It's our
We're an
NHL
equal opportunity
preview show.
fan base. Yeah, it's fine.
Hey, guys, before we get into it, make sure you guys like, subscribe, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Big shout out, Mr. Diamond Hands is starting camp in Kansas City. We're looking forward to have him recording with us again, probably the next episode or so.
Oh, that's exciting, huh?
Yeah, we'll have some big updates with Mr. Diamond Hands soon. So proud of him. And so again, real quick, also shout out to one of our big sponsors, Day One, Club 93. Our boys, Ken, Jim, all the guys over there. I always set myself up for failure. There's so many guys in Club 93, and I always mention like 2 or 3 of them. I always feel like I'm leaving them out. So big shout out to all the crew over there, Club 93. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for the support. So let's get right into it.
Yeah,
Jane,
let's do it.
I mean, you, like I said, you big hockey insider, big Bruins girl.
I'm a big Bruins fan. I'm a big fan of the game all around. Yeah.
What got you into hockey? Because, I mean, we've been friends now for a little while.
Yeah.
We've gotten to know each other. We're doing a lot of stuff together with the Trashers brand and everything else. But, you know, I don't think I've ever asked you what got you into
hockey.
What
happened to you that you're so obsessed with hockey? You know, I grew up in the backwoods of Burlington, Connecticut, and that's a pond hockey town. And I grew up with a bunch of brothers and their friends. And it was just part of our culture. And, of course, here in Connecticut, we had the Hartford Whalers, still one of the greatest franchise logos ever in the history of the NHL. Still sells. That artist from Chester, Connecticut, great guy. I've met him.
Is there any, not to interrupt you, is there any teams right now with that green, white, and navy? I don't think that color scheme's been used.
No, not really. But, you know, the Carolina Hurricanes, who I like to call the fake Whalers, they're not afraid to throw on a little stolen valor once in a while, you know.
We got to sell those jerseys, you know.
I know.
Go on Fanatics, $500 jersey.
I know. I found 2 pucks in my drawer last night, one with the Hartford Whalers logo, and I have one from the New England Whalers.
Wow.
That's going way back with the Harpoon, yeah. So, you know, it was a sad day when the Whalers left, but, you know, over time, I migrated to Boston physically and metaphorically.
Well, it makes sense.
Bruins,
it makes sense. You know what? I guess geographically it makes sense. I mean, I've said it. I'm a Devils fan because that was just the first game my dad took me to. It was a Devils game, I think, 94. And thank God he didn't take me to a Ranger game, or I'd be a Ranger fan. So
but you know what they say about Connecticut. Connecticut is New York-Massachusetts, so we're split down the middle. So you're either a tri-state fan, you know, team fan, or New England. So so here we are.
Well, listen, I mean, I'm so excited. I mean, it's like you know, we're recording this. Obviously, I mean, this is airing on opening night.
I know.
It's become like a holiday for me again. I remember back in the day, opening night, you know, hockey season starting. I used to get so hyped.
Yeah.
Then after the Trashers, I was just off of it. I didn't. Now I'm like back all in, which fortunate, unfortunate.
Really?
But
they
I'm so
I
know. Yep. Once I thought I was out, they pulled me back in, and that's where we're at here.
I love that it's bringing you joy again, though.
Yeah.
And I got to see you last week at the Danbury Ice Arena watching the Bruins alumni play the Hat Tricks coaches for the Hat Tricks Girls Program benefit. That was fantastic, and you know, to see you there in your element, sitting in section 102 was great. The place was just crawling with little kids and a lot of Hat Tricks jerseys. It's a great thing for the community.
It really is. I mean, hockey's just, in Danbury especially, it's just I mean, Connecticut is rich in hockey history, but I mean, it really only started in Danbury just 20 years ago, technically. So it's just to see it grow like this is amazing. And yeah, that was a fun event. Shout out to the your Bruin alumni team ended up winning that. It was close at the end, and then I think they decided.
Well, the coaches tied it in that first period. That second period, they came back and they were disrespectful.
The Bruins. It was funny. The Bruins alumni they got up to a 1-0 lead in like 8 seconds, and then I feel like they kind of reined it in a little bit, and then, shout out to the hat-trick coaches, came back, they fought hard, and then I feel like at the end, the Bruins were like, nah, we can't.
If you think that the Bruins alumni team is going to make it easy for you, you are wrong.
Yeah.
They're
in shape. I didn't
great.
realize, I mean, some of the guys there were, I mean, no disrespect, they're a little older, but they can move. I was just doesn't leave you. I guess when you're a pro athlete, it just can't leave you.
Those one-timers in the blue line are still hitting, trust me.
Well, listen, like I said, we're in the regular season now, okay? But we talked about it early before we started recording. Preseason was
wild,
kind of a mess this year, right?
Wild,
I mean,
and
what happened?
I feel like it was like even extended. Maybe it's just because so much news was coming around or coming out of it with fights and a lot of injuries to key people. Right, we got Doughty, Patrick Lane, who thankfully is escaping surgery, so he should be back in 2 to 3 weeks with a sprained knee. Panarin, number 1 draft pick, Celebrini, like that's not exactly how he wants to start his rookie season.
It's crazy because we see the clips on social media.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I didn't really watch preseason, but I follow what's going on, and it's like every time I put the phone on, it's like someone was hurt, and like you said, big time names.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the question is like, where do we go with preseason? Because I feel like the NFL, they did away with one game. I mean, NFL might be even worse than the NHL with their preseason. But, I mean, I get it. It's got a purpose, obviously. You got to give guys a chance, shake the rust and, other guys get an opportunity.
Certainly.
But how much is too much? Because like you said, I mean, if I own the Montreal Canadiens, I'm pissed. You know what I mean? That's a big loss.
For sure. Well, what about our boys? I mean, your Devils playing, across the pond right now, too. That's exhausting.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it's important, but it's exhausting, and they got to come right back. They started their season over there. Their regular season technically started over there.
Yeah.
And then they're going to come back and hit the ground running or skating,
I think it's definitely a topic we'll get into later today, but it just makes you, with all this stuff going on, it makes you wonder why the salary cap is where it's at with this league. You're talking the best athletes in the world.
Yeah.
And, they're just always behind that. I know you have some strong feelings about that. I mean, it just seems like hockey players are always behind the 8-ball with the salary cap, and like you're saying, playing in Prague. It's hopefully
demanding.
It'll catch up. Hopefully the NHL is going to catch up.
It's demanding. Well, you would hope so, since the NHL has had 2 record revenue years, if I'm not mistaken, about $6.5 billion. This COVID debt allegedly is wrapped up now, so the cap was so flat for so long, and for I think 3 years in a row we were at $81.5 million, and now we're only at 88, and that should have climbed beyond this by now. But it's tight. It's so tight that I believe last year there were a number of roster spots squeezed right out of the league.
Yeah.
So I forget exactly what the number is, but let's just call it a dozen, right? That's a dozen worthy skaters that were out of a job because the salary cap did not allow for them to be there, and you've got teams managing this really tight space. Not to mention when you end up with injuries and you end up with the trade deadline, you want to make some moves, you've got some holes in your roster, it becomes really, really difficult to navigate. So at least they have a little bit of breathing room, but certainly not enough.
Now, I know it doesn't reflect, I mean, we're talking about cap. I always tell people, you don't know what you're dealing with someone until you deal with them with money, okay?
Yeah.
That's sports, personal life. Unfortunately, until you deal with someone with money, you don't really see someone's character. Now, let's bring up your boy, and I'm not throwing any shade, okay?
Yeah.
Your boy, Mr. Swayman in Boston. I mean, this has been a story that has just kind of flooded the NHL the past few weeks.
It won't stop.
And I know you're thrilled about this situation. Why don't you, to the viewers who may not, follow the Bruins as much as you, what's going on with your young stud goalie Swayman over there.
Well, just to give it a little background, the Bruins have had for the last 2 seasons the luxury of a tandem goalie team. So Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman were literally interchangeable and shared the net for 2 seasons. Swayman came up on the roster a couple of years ago from Providence at the bargain basement price of like $750,000, I think, like league minimum. So we had gotten him for that. He came up to back up when Tuukka was in, Tuukka was out, and you know, thankfully we had this wonderful 2-season experience of tandem goalies, but it never got us a cup. And if Ullmark didn't move, he was about $5 million, I think, 5 and change. There's no way that we're going to be paying over $11 million to two goalies.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Ullmark wanted to stay, so he refused his trade at the trade deadline. So everyone who's saying, well, you know, the Bruins front office really screwed this up because they should have had this deal done before trading Ullmark. Ullmark was already going to be traded, and if he hadn't refused, he would have been gone in February before playoffs last year. So with Swayman, it's this. He did go in arbitration last year, and he did sign a 1-year bridge deal, right? This is what we're going to do. The salary cap was going up. We're going to give you more on the next round. And it sounds like they're in a deadlock. Now, while nobody can verify, I have some details that, I'm not a reporter, though. So but a lot of these reporters can't verify what his actual ask is, and they can't verify what the Bruins' offers were. And I think that there were some stories going around the Bruins offered like a low ball of 6.5 or something like that. Sounds to me like it's more, hearing it straight from their mouths on the microphone, that it's more around $64 million, which would be around 8 times 8 or whatever it is. It shakes out. I would guess that Swayman's probably somewhere closer to 9.5.
It's crazy because as this story's unfolded, I feel like the story's accelerated recently, but obviously because the season's starting, so it's like Bruins fans are like, what are we doing? I mean, goalie is arguably the most important position on a roster, and it's like this is a big story.
The goalie was the most important position on the roster certainly last year because we had major holes in our defense. We can get to that in a minute, how the Bruins, I think, have attempted to resolve that. But he's not the only goalie in the world either. He's good, but he's not yet great. And that's what I keep saying. He split the net with Ullmark. He hasn't had the load of a number one goalie where you're starting 75% of the games. I think he was somewhere around like 47%, 43 to 47% of the games. We haven't seen you as a first-time goalie with that load. So how are you going to manage that? And you haven't made what is considered a serious cup run, which is getting beyond round 2, which he hasn't done. He did well, but he didn't advance us.
It's so tough because obviously 20 years ago, I've been in the position of quote-unquote management, part of the Trashers, GM, whatever.
It's an art and a science.
It's it's so tough because I always tell people when it comes to fans, fans pay to watch the players, all right? Fans are always going to typically be on the side. I call it boots over suits. Boots on the ground. No one's cheering for the suits. Everyone hates the bosses. They hate the ties, the shirts and ties. But I've been in the position, I didn't wear shirts and ties, but I've been in that suit position. Yeah. But I've also, the last 15 years with boxing, I've been in the position of representing fighters. I've been seeing, I've been on all sides, the athletic side of it, the athlete side, as well as management side. Mm-hmm. Now with the hat tricks, again, I'm kind of back on the hockey op side. Yeah. I'm kind of like a hybrid. Yeah. So I think I'm unique in that way of I see it even, on all sides. And I think the toughest thing is, the media runs with a lot of stuff, and I feel like they can really do damage within, I saw Swayman post something, and he's crying about, I wrote
His
things
feelings.
down about what they said about me, allegedly. Yeah. And it's like, dude.
I know. I was very, I said on my stories the other day, I was like, sign the contract, baby girl.
Yes.
This isn't about feelings anymore. This is business. And listen, I'm a pro player fan.
Yes, I know you are.
I'm a pro player insider. I want to fight the league and Gary Bettman for all of what is due to these players. They're like gladiators, But at the same time, it's not about being on the side of the front office or Swayman. It's being on the side of the team at large because how could you put your team in this position? You want to find the balance between what your value is, what your authentic, true value is, not what you think it is, not what your agent tells you that it is, not even what uninformed fans think that it is. and positioning your team to be in the best spot for a cup run.
Yeah. And
that's all that matters.
At the end of the day, results is what matters, and you're right. I mean, he hasn't seen. Listen, the kid's got potential. Everyone sees it. You have to be blind to not see it.
You got to consider. Sorry, the Bruins cap space as well.
Yeah.
He can't say, "Well, you have all this, so let me eat that all up." What if there are injuries? We still have, I think a first line center that we need to go shopping for, or at least have some money to play with when it comes to the trade deadline. God forbid there's a long, injury list. We're going to need to use that money, and he's not going to leave it there.
Even with the Trashers, I remember I was always huge. We as a team were always huge with incentive-based deals, too.
Yeah.
Obviously, pay a guy fair market value, obviously.
Sure.
But, I mean, like you said, there's got to be, like I said, I get it. Fans, and first of all, this is a stupid game to play in a blue-collar city like Boston because the fans already seem to have turned on them.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like...
there was a cardboard sign.
Yeah,
take 64 or go.
Yeah, so it's like, this is a dumb game for any athlete to play in a city like Boston or New York
go
or
cry
Philly.
In your money.
This is like, if you want to pull that in Seattle, maybe you'll get some sympathy. But this is I think, I don't know if it's Swayman or his agent or family members.
Well, his agent has a history.
Yeah, so I mean, it's listen, you gotta know, you gotta know where you are on the chessboard and where your chessboard is located. I don't know if this was the right, because public perception is a big part of a lot too, and I think they played this wrong. Same time, I mean, incentive-based deals. I mean, I always say, listen,
we can get creative.
Get creative and listen. If you're as good as we think you are, listen, help us with our cap. Because we have a team. It's not the Boston Swaymans. Okay?
Exactly.
How do we get to if you're you know what I mean? This isn't the Boston Swaymans. So we got a cap, we have a team. How do we make you happy? And how do we reward you for, if you're as good as we think you are? Yeah. So I don't know if incentives are played enough. I don't know. I'm big on being fair with guys, but if they earn it, give them more. You know what I mean?
But at the end of the day, it's still a team, and you don't want to strap your team. So what good is having Swayman at $9.5 million if they're not going to make a cup run?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you hit on something, and again, I'm not a Bruins fan, but one thing I do love about this Bruins team is, like you said, their defensive corps. Okay, I mean, it's like these guys are is this arguably? We got to look this up. This might be the biggest height weight of a defensive corpse I've ever seen.
He looks like a born Bruin. He's
love him,
terrifying.
Big guy.
He's like, who do you want me to fight? Give me a list of people. I will fight them. We've had holes in our defense for a long time. McAvoy has been really carrying a lot of it, and he's gone through some injuries too with the shoulder and some other things. And he's a target out there. He's meaty, but he's a target.
Yeah.
If we lose him, we definitely felt the effects of it last year when he was injured. So, we were heavily reliant on Swayman and Ullmark last year because the defense was a little weak. But now, we might be able to work with or develop a new goalie team. We got Brandon Bussey coming out of Providence. I have been talking about Bussey for a couple of years now. He is so strong, and he may end up starting the season as the backup goalie if they don't sign Swayman.
I mean, and then you talk about the business of the sport, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you kind of get and I've been there, like you kind of get the inclination you're gonna have some issues with a guy signing. You can't stop putting together the rest of the team, and you got to kind of bridge something. So this defensive corps, I mean, unreal. I mean, the stats they got today in this day and age, I can't wait to see their overall defensive scores and their ratings, because that defensive. I mean, I'm all big on. You have some bulk back there. That sounded weird, but you know what I mean. You have to. I mean, these guys. It's going to be very. Anyone who plays Boston, it's going to be a very tough night, and I think that's what wins. Defense wins championships, and grit does too. So, I mean, I think it's going to resolve for Swayman and the Bruins, but.
I think that the bloggers, reporters are making these predictions. The odds for the Cup too are not really taking into account how strong the Bruins roster is. Just because it's not your typical list of the familiar household names anymore. We have depth. We have so much depth and
a great minor league system. You know what I mean? Like you said, they got
Providence is amazing.
So there's just the organization. They do it right. So hopefully it'll work out. I mean. Not hopefully. I mean, you'll lose to the Devils, but for you and all you the cute Devils, bear logo fans out there, good luck to you guys.
Pooh Bear, Meth Bear. Your Devils are off to a great start, though. They really are.
Well, listen, I mean, we have so much potential like last year, but it's the injuries. I mean, they got to stay healthy. I mean, look, it's not like they want to get hurt. Yeah. You know what I mean? I always laugh when people are like, oh, they can't stay healthy. Well, they're not trying to hurt them. No. They're not trying to get hurt.
No, they're going 35 miles per hour on knife shoes with weapons in their hand.
I think the Devils, I mean, you talked about it. A big hole for us was our goalie last year. Our goalie situation, we talk about tandems. I feel like we had 3-4. Yeah. We're interchanging puzzle pieces.
It's such a luxury in this game, too.
Jacob Markstrom brings, he's, a little older now, but he brings that. For the first time in a long time, it seems like we have that legitimate number one goalie. Yeah. We improved our defense as well. Sure. Brandon Dillon. Brendan or Brandon. Dillon.
Either way, we love
big
you.
Boy. We got a lot of young stars. I mean, but they got to stay healthy. Listen, I was shocked how many preseason polls had them in the top 3, like making the Cup. Yeah. I would love that. I think it's possible. I just, I'm big on experience. They don't have that, they don't have that long, this core right now has the potential.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm going to root for them till the wheels fall off. I hope they go all the way. But me personally, I feel like they haven't dealt with that. I don't think there's enough playoff experience on the roster yet. Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, anything can happen. It's all about getting in, staying healthy.
Who are the veterans on Devils?
I mean, we got Dougie Hamilton now. Yep. Dylan, we talked about Brett Pesce, which we got from Carolina, who I love because we took one of their guys. That
veteran presence is really important if you're going to make a Cup run, especially when you've got a younger team.
I would love, we have grit too. We got Curtis McDermott. We got Curtis Lazar. The pieces are there. I think Markstrom stays healthy, plays well. It can be interesting, but we'll see. I think, like you said, kind of like, you look at the trade deadline that's coming up. I mean, not now, but, in the future, if the Devils are in there, who's going to be available? Maybe my boy, a friend of the show, Frank Vetrano. I would love a guy like Frank Vetrano on the Devils. And I told him after and he was here sitting where you're sitting right now, and I told him, like, hey, we need you on the Devils. I think the Devils, if they can perform how it looks like they can perform, and you get to the trade deadline, if the Ducks are out of it, Vetrano's probably going somewhere.
I'd love to see him back on the East Coast too.
Yeah, with the Devils, yes, yeah. But I think I think a guy like you bring in, like you said, a veteran presence. I think if the Devils could get one more guy like that, it could be a game changer.
Just to anchor it.
But we'll see. Yeah. I mean, listen, talking about veteran presence, we talked about this year kind of being, nothing's guaranteed, but, all sports, like, there's, like, generational players. Yes. It's like, there's, like, it's like class of 2004 or 2000, it's like LeBron James in basketball, like, that whole generation, they're getting long in the tooth now. Yeah. Listen, we got Alexander Ovechkin. We have Sidney Crosby. We have guys that are kind of on their last rides here. Yeah. And it kind of raises
do or die.
It kind of raised a few questions to me about both those guys in particular. Obviously, Ovechkin and Crosby are going to be connected for life. Obviously, the first question I have is Alexander Ovechkin, 39 years old. He's currently at 853 goals. Okay, he is 41 goals shy of Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. Right. I believe you looked it up. Last year he had 31 goals or something.
Last season he got 31 goals. So he's going to have to do better than that for this season if this is going to be his last.
Man, oh man. It's a stretch. You talk about, this is stressful if I'm Alexander Ovechkin because, how do you get this close and not get it? Right?
I know.
Like, does he get to, 893 and decide I'm coming back next year?
He may.
I'm a firm believer. I don't care if it takes him 2 more seasons. There's no way this man can get this close and not take it. I mean, ignorantly, I was shocked how close he was. I didn't realize until I looked at the numbers, say how close he truly is. I mean, is it possible this year? Of course. I mean, he's obviously a power play legend. I mean, you put him on the power play.
He played 79 games last year, too. So he got 31 and 79 games.
He's durable.
They did not make playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, and based on his little temper tantrums, I'm not a big, I'm not a fan of the Caps at all, and Ovechkin in particular is like my nemesis. But I respect him. And I know that it really crushed him to not make playoffs. You know, he was smashing sticks.
Man,
and what have you.
Ovechkin's he has to break it. And I mean, a lot of people have been, you know, I put up on social media recently, like, what are some of your hot takes or some of the questions you have going into this year? And a lot of people are like, is Ovechkin going to take it? I think he does. I don't know if he gets it this year, though. I mean, I feel like he's going to come back next year. I mean, 40.
If he gets it this year, they've got to be making playoffs.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
40-something goals, like, you know.
So it's going to be very interesting. I mean, you're watching history. I mean, you're watching history. I mean, when Wayne Gretzky set that record, when you're at the time, you're thinking, who's ever going to touch that?
I know Gretzky's unbelievable, though.
But if you look at Gretzky's total points, and then you look at how Ovechkin is only so close to him in goals, Wayne still got, I don't know how many more points than him. It's insane. But I think Wayne Gretzky, to his credit, I think last year he said something along the lines of, you know, hey, records are meant to be broken. He's rooting for Ovi.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I think the second question I have with a guy like Ovechkin and Crosby is usually when you see these veterans, they get to a certain point, and they're on the last ride. Are any of these guys in the discussion for a cup run trade at the trade deadline? Is this one of those things where a franchise kind of pulls like?
I don't think that Ovechkin or Crosby, like, it's like the captain goes down with his ship. You want to see that, but I understand that too. That if you've got a player who can compete and he's not on a team that has a path to the cup, he may accept a trade to do so.
I mean, it's when I see veterans, legends, you know, and I mean, listen, I mean, it sounds crazy now. I mean, I can't picture either one of them in a different uniform, but crazier things have happened. I mean, you know, it's one of those things when you see guys at this level. Yeah. Is there like an agreement? Like, do they know, hey, this is the last year, let's give them a shot? You know, next year you'll sign a one-day contract, retire with us anyway.
I don't know.
Could you imagine?
I can't imagine Crosby doing that, especially after him taking $8.7 million for his extension, right? Again, this year. Well, that's a team guy. That's a team guy.
I think if I don't know.
And he's hoisted the cup.
Crazier,
already,
exactly. Well, that is true. That you know what, you bring up a great point. Both, you know,
they both have.
They have cups, so maybe it's a little different. But I don't know. You just never know with a guy, and I don't really look at that as a disloyal thing. I think it's like when guys like this, you know, they've done so much for the game. It's like sometimes they look out for each other. Like the teams will say, "Hey, look, go and." You know, join the Devils. We'll trade you to the Devils.
It's those quiet secondary, tertiary trades that are interesting when it comes to the trade deadline, because you can have someone who's on like a basement team, but they're filling a very important hole on right defense or left defense, or because of a long list of injuries, and they end up hoisting their first cup. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, anything can happen. I love the trade deadline. That's a holiday for me.
Yeah, I love the trade deadline too, and you know, like we said earlier,
we should do an all-day trade deadline. We monitor it.
It's going to be a wild. I can just feel it's going to be a wild season. I mean, then you know, now pulling a 180. We talk about the old guard. You know, we're on our last rides here. Ovechkin, Crosby. You know, there's a bunch of other guys. This new wave of talent, and you know, listeners of this show, I've said it. I mean, these guys are so good now. I mean, Connor Bedard. The skill
level is outrageous.
I mean, the next generation, I mean, let's face it, it's Connor Bedard, the three Hughes brothers. Devils got two of them, thank God. You know, the Celebrini kid, the Fantilli kid, Trevor Zegras we talked about. I mean,
it's a make or break year for Zegras.
These are not just new, like, rookie or second year players or third year players. These are like new faces of the game. I mean, you see them everywhere on social media.
Definitely. We talk about generational talent. We're talking about a generation that is so talented in a different way. That skills development that's happening now, you know, since youth is really coming through at the professional level. I think the only thing that I've read recently is that the coaches would like to see them beef up a little more.
Yeah.
Start lifting
Yeah,
weights.
they're a little, this new generation, like I said, we're really in.
They're
and
fast.
This is what's so exciting about this NHL season and probably the next 10 years is we got so many, you look at a map of where all the teams are. You got generational talent all over the map.
Yeah.
But you're right. These guys are built different. These are speed guys.
Yep.
I was looking at weights,
Speed,
150,
yeah,
160.
I know.
I'm like, these guys are string beans.
I know.
And that's where
But
I
they
feel
gotta be
like
able
these
to
injury, and
yeah.
that's the injury. So
Exactly.
it's going to be interesting. I mean, and what I love about the NHL now, because I remember as a kid, in the old days, it seemed like you'd get drafted number 1 overall, but you'd have to be stuck in the minors 2-3 years, and then I love how these guys now, they're up. They're right here.
Yeah, jumping.
Devils, our first round pick, Seamus, defenseman, had a goal today as of recording in Prague.
Yeah.
Bring them up. I've always said years ago, I'm like, let's let these guys play. I mean,
Let
this is
them
where
play.
you learn. I get, look, if they're not there right away, send them down, get
Back
some
and
reps.
forth, but that's why that's why the AHL system is so important.
Yeah.
That's where you have to store and develop your depth for the future.
I absolutely love the fact that these guys get to come up right away, and it's good for the fans. I mean, Connor McDavid he had so much expectations last year, and he
performed under tremendous personal and professional.
He showed a lot of
pressure.
mental toughness, a lot of physical toughness. So that kid, obviously, he's kind of. I feel like he's getting the torch from Ovi and Crosby, and like I said, we got the Hughes brothers on the Devils.
Hopefully, Celebrini feeling better soon. It's
another guy hurt preseason, right?
Yes, number 1 draft pick, Macklin Celebrini. It's lower body injury. Hopefully he's back.
Yeah, hopefully, because the talent is insane. So we're in like a new generational wave here. It's gonna make things a lot of fun, and I love the fact that, though they'll never admit it, the younger guys too also a little more active on social media. You know what I mean? I think that's what you need. I mean, I've been saying it.
The fan engagement is so critical, and I feel that the fan engagement in the NHL has increased so much in the last couple of years. Whether it's because of social media, better events.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I think too, certainly the All-Star weekend last year was huge. And Justin Bieber, like that was a circus.
Yeah. But you were telling me something before we recorded, which I honestly didn't know.
A lot of people don't know. Yeah.
The foreign nations face-off, is that what you were saying it is?
So this coming season, instead of the All-Star weekend that they've had for the last few years, they're having the Four Nations Face-Off, the Four Nations Face-Off Cup tournament that is going to take place in Montreal and at the Boston Garden, so in 2 cities. The 4 nations included are the U.S., Canada, Finland, and Sweden. They're going to play games against each other, round robin, and the 2 teams with the best records at the end go to the final, and that'll be played at Boston Garden as well.
Wow, that's amazing. See,
it's going to be so much fun. And that's the best of the best that each of these countries have to offer.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're getting that all-star experience, but you're getting big boy hockey.
Yeah.
And it's not just like something for the kids. This is a real spectacle.
Just not just hockey. I mean, I feel like all-star games across sports in general. I mean, baseball, they let me not misspeak. I think they still do. I think winner gets home field advantage, AL or NL. But I feel like the All-Star games nowadays, it's kind of like players don't even seem to want to be there half the time.
They don't. It's really it's a break.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's a season break, which by the way they really need in hockey.
Yeah. So this is cool. I love these concepts. I love anything to be different or change things.
And it's exciting. It's real hockey. It's not like just a fun little game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you talk about looking out for the players. I mean, I'm sure there is, but you'd like to hope the winners are, there's some purses there. There's some winnings there.
Sure.
You know what I
mean?
mean?
I think too that this is a little bit of an informal tryout for the Olympics too, because the NHL players are going to be playing in the Olympics next year.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that. I had no idea about that till you told me. So
tickets just went on sale last Friday. They really haven't done a great job of promoting the ticket sales, but they're selling. So
it's going to be all. I can't wait to see the jersey. See, I'm like that. I'm like, let me see the jerseys. Let me see because I love seeing the swag and the jersey. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, so getting back, listen, their teams. It's. Every season, it's up in the air. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
You always, you look. I put out a post the other day on Facebook. If you guys follow at Danbury Treasures, way too early predictions this season. I mean, anything can happen. It's fun. It's fun to predict.
Yeah.
Injuries happen. Things happen. It's really,
But you never know.
You never know who's gonna, perform. It's just really too hard. I mean, hockey has a lot of parity. Like anything can happen, but there are, of course, teams like in every sport. Football's got the Cowboys. Baseball's got the Yanks. There's always a lightning rod teams, and let's talk a little bit about your friends over in Toronto, the Maple Leafs, because when I got back into hockey a few years ago after the documentary came out on the trash and stuff, and I just it's crazy because I'd been away for the game for so long, like how much Maple Leaf fans have been suffering, and it's
my God.
it's like almost like it's
almost like the old school Red Sox fans.
Yes,
yes, of which I'm one.
Yeah,
so I know.
Boo. But it's you talk about holidays. For me, playoffs is fun, and we're a ways away from that because it's like Toronto fans. Arguably the one of the biggest fan bases in hockey. Yeah. They are just so miserable.
They're ready to get hurt again. They're ready.
It's like, what do you say to them? I mean, it's like, and I as a Yankee fan understand because for years, even right now, Yankees are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We've always spent the money. We have the players.
Yep.
You see it. They go through the season. You're like, who's going to beat the Yankees? And then they lay eggs sometimes. You know what I mean? It's very hard to win a championship in any sport.
The Maple Leafs in particular are really a mystery because they have been, I believe at last check, they might be over their cap right now. They've spent a lot of money on players, and they assembled, quite the roster. But historically speaking, and I'm talking about like since 18-19 moving forward, they have not been able to effectively distill that talent from that roster that they spent so much money on. You've got some of the best skaters in the game: Matthews, Marner, Tavares. They're out there, Nylander, and they just couldn't gel. Now they couldn't do it under Babcock. Right?
Yeah.
They couldn't do it under the last coach.
Sheldon Keefe, who the Devils have now.
Yep.
But I'm glad you brought this up because, again, how many times do you go back to the well? They have this core four, it seems like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they got more than four guys, but they just...
Dangerous to put all your eggs in that basket, though.
They just seem like this is the experiment. I don't care how many coaches we run through.
Yeah.
We are going to... They are trying to crowbar, and I said it last postseason, I don't see it. Again, people get all over me, and I know things are going well because I'm starting to get attacked more on social media lately about
we know we're getting more engagement.
All you care about is fighting, and no, I'm not all about fighting, but the playoffs, you need grit. Skill is great. You need the skill. Do the Florida Panthers, do they do toe drag practicing all day? No, they know when to win when it matters.
Yeah.
The Maple Leafs, I said it at and I got torched by fans. I said they're not going anywhere because you could see it. I'm big on body language. Yeah. You see it. These guys are crying all the time. Maybe Swayman should go to Toronto. You got crying and crying.
They
and
talk about their feelings.
They just don't have it. Now, I said, it doesn't mean they're not good players.
Right.
I say it's like this. I love Chinese food.
Yeah.
I love hot fudge sundae.
Yeah.
But I can't eat them at the same time. I'm going to throw up. Right. I can't eat an egg roll and then a hot fudge sundae.
It's a great metaphor.
Great individually, but together I get a stomach ache.
Right.
So it's not, this Toronto, God bless them, because they're stubborn. They got to be Italians who run this team because they are stubborn. They are trying to crowbar this. This is the core.
They're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
That's the definition of insanity.
Exactly. And the only thing that they've switched out at this point are their coaches and their captaincy.
Yeah. And now they got, I think, Craig Berube, right? I believe is the coach. Mm-hmm. Now,
and Matthews is wearing the C.
I think it's a disaster. I like Craig Berube. He was my type of player growing up. Mm-hmm. Tough, hard-nosed guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to make it in that Toronto media. The minute they lose, I don't know if they're playing tonight opening night. They lose tonight, they're going to be like, oh my God, it's a funeral. They're planning the funeral.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to work. They gotta
strap in and take the ride for the whole season and not micromanage through the media or the coach and the
Toronto
front
Maple
office.
Leafs remind me of me. And I'm going to tell you why. I've been telling myself for the past year, I'm going to start working out again next week. I'm going to start on Monday.
Yeah.
No more excuses. Monday.
Yeah.
Saturday. Sunday comes.
You have a boxing gym.
No, not next.
You're literally going to work out.
So, no, I'm going to start. Yeah. No. I'm making an excuse. They are doing the same thing. No, this team's going to work this year. If it doesn't work this year, we're going to change it up.
Yeah.
Doesn't work? No. It's Sheldon Keefe's fault. It's this coach's fault. they just are not. They're destined.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to watch.
They just can't find that special sauce.
Yeah.
You know, like that chemistry on the ice.
I don't think. I just think one of these core guys, they got to make a statement. If they start off slow, they got to make a statement. But I don't think they're going to do it. They are just so stubborn. But shout out to the Maple Leafs. Shout out to my people in Toronto. I love you guys.
Well, you know what? Here's
and I feel bad for Toronto fans because they deserve better. But they're going to crowbar
same
this.
Same thing though. You never know because as of a few weeks ago, Nick Robertson, sibling of Jason Robertson from Dallas Stars, who was one of the top goal scorers for a couple seasons ago. Nick Robertson, his brother, was without a contract until just a few weeks ago, and he has scored 3 goals in 3 preseason games.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't sleep on him.
Listen, Toronto, what I will say about Toronto is I looked at their roster. They did, it seems like the theme this offseason, they bulked up their defense, okay?
Yeah.
They bulked up their defense. I think they got the Tanev kid who I like. They got some stay-at-home D guys, and we'll see.
They got Morgan Riley.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but I just don't see it. I'm big on, and a lot of people are like, well, why? Sometimes it's just, I just know if someone has it or they don't, and I could be wrong, but they just don't have it, and I think Craig Berube, on the surface, is a great coach, disciplinarian, but I don't think he's going to make it with that media.
Yeah.
That's like, it's a tough media, Brian. A lot of guys aren't built for
Who
that.
do they have for grit, though, on their team?
Well, they have Ryan Reeves still, but he doesn't see much playing time. I mean, Max Domi, my boy, he's out running around if needed. But I don't know. You know what? It's not like they're not trying. It's just something.
But you just can't dog whistle for Revo to come off the bench to fight your fights either. Like everyone's got to be able to take a hit or throw a hit, and you
I don't
just
know.
don't see
it. There's just something there, and I believe it's the core. Not that each one of them individually aren't great players. They are, but it's just like I said. It's just a wrong mix. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting because, like I said, the Toronto fans they have been suffering, and it does remind me a lot of the Red Sox back in the day. I used to love watching that suffering too, but we talk about lightning rod teams, and I took a beating on this very show a few months back. Well, when playoffs were going on, before the summer. The Edmonton Oilers. You talk about, I love Edmonton. I've been to Edmonton twice. I love the people of Edmonton. They're my type of people, my type of city, blue collar, great people. And I was all over Edmonton. They, I was watching, McDavid get dummied around and no one did anything. I remember saying they're done. I think they were playing Vancouver, if I remember correctly. And I was like, it's over. Vancouver's went. Yeah. Oiler fans were pissed with me. Yeah. And you know what? They end up going to finals. They lose. I kind of thought it was funny because everyone was all over me. Yeah. I was like, they don't have it. I'm telling you.
I would have rather seen them win.
Yeah, but I got to tell you something.
Of Florida.
I'll tell you something. And we can make some final predictions later, but I am predicting the Edmonton Oilers, this is the year. Mm-hmm. I think they are going to take it. I saw a clip. I think it's on Prime. They were following the Oilers behind it, which they got to do more of that stuff.
Yeah. This is that fan engagement.
They have to do this.
Yeah,
now, I've always said, McDavid, I like McDavid as a player. Obviously, how could you not? He's unreal. Mm-hmm. But I've had questions about, just on the outside looking in, how could someone like me have questions? I don't know the man. I've never met him. But from the outside, you can
questions.
But you wonder. Yeah. I'm big on body language. And I always figured this guy was like, oh, whatever. They had a clip the other day. I think it was.
I saw it.
And this guy, literally 10 seconds after losing the cup in the locker room, and Gary Bettman is announcing that he's the Conn Smythe MVP winner.
Which, by the way,
is the
who's in charge of that?
The only other time I saw that happen, I was there, Game 7 of 2003. Devils win the Stanley Cup, and they gave it to the Ducks, Sebastian Jaguar. I was pissed, but
it's so inappropriate.
But he's in the locker room, and you could see it. Like, it was a powerful clip. I don't get moved too much by stuff, and I'm watching this guy, and you could feel the pain coming out of this guy's pores, and he just breaks down. He starts to cry. Yeah. And
is this when he was yelling, "This isn't good enough"?
I felt it, and I was like, you know what? I'm all in on Connor McDavid now. He showed me that is his villain origin story. Yeah, you see what I'm a big Batman fan. When the Joker's origin story, Connor McDavid, as great as he's been, is gonna put on the greatest season this year because he has to now. Yeah, I saw what I needed to see, and that's why. NHL, hockey, you have to have these behind the scenes stuff. Because I was never, as much as I admired and appreciated and respected Connor McDavid, I was never a big fan because I'm like, I don't think he's got the heart.
His personality doesn't come through, but he also doesn't have to show that.
No, but when I saw that clip, I'm telling you, I became a Connor McDavid fan. I'm like, yep, this year he finishes the story. Like his villain and...
you got to root for him. You really do after that.
Yeah, I mean, that was powerful stuff.
He was quoted as saying that he wouldn't have gone out there to accept that trophy for $1 million.
And why would you? I mean, it's crazy.
It's so insulting at that point.
But when you see that
raw league,
when you see that raw emotion, I mean, I'm all in on Connor McDavid. I think they're going to win it, the Oilers. I think this is the year. I think they'll be the first Canadian team since, the 90s to win. Which is crazy.
First
to think.
Canadian team since Gary Bettman was in his chair.
So I'm all in on. So Edmonton, I'm all in on the Oilers this year. As a Devil fan, I'm. It could be Devils Oilers. Who knows? It could be Rangers Oilers. But I think the Oilers. This is the year they finish the story. I'm all in on Connor McDavid. I think as good as this career he's had, this is the season. But I still think they got question marks, especially on defense. I know they added a couple pieces, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But. What about you?
They have an incredible squad, though.
I want your predictions.
Well, I'm going to say the Bruins, of course. Well, listen, I'm going to root for the Bruins because I am a true fan. We were talking earlier about people who are half in, half out, and
shout out to Matt, one of our producers here, half in Bruin, half not.
Yeah, I said I think people who gamble on sports, and God bless you, I just choose not to. How can you be a true fan if you're gambling on sports? So I understand that surface level thing. But I am Bruins through and through. That said, if it's not going to be the Bees, I'd love to see Edmonton. I really would because I think they deserve it.
I hate making this prediction because I was looking online to see what the experts were predicting, and a lot of people are saying it. So I don't want to look like I'm not a bandwagon guy.
Yeah.
I'm not rooting for Edmonton because I'm a Devils fan. I'm just a Devils fan.
They're so good. They're so good.
But I'm telling you, that little stupid clip convinced me.
Yeah.
That convinced me that it's Connor's year. And, Draisaitl, that whole team.
Draisaitl. I mean, that alone. Draisaitl is a dream of a player.
But I go a lot on the eye test. I know analytics are nice, but the eye test. When I saw those emotion with those guys, I'm like, you know what? They're coming back with fire.
That's like all these analytics. I study them too. I look at them too, but I don't put a lot of stake in the odds or anything like that. It is a gut thing for me.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what. You talk about underdog teams, teams under the radar. Yeah. I got to tell you, I hate to say it because it's a devil rival, but I'm intrigued with Philadelphia. The Flyers, I don't know why I woke up this morning because I knew we were recording. I'm like, let me talk about a couple under the radar teams that could make us push or over the next few years. There's something about the Flyers and the Red Wings, but I'm going to say Flyers in specific. They got that rookie who's looked unbelievable, a Russian kid, I think. I don't even want to try his name. I didn't write it down. I love John Tortorella. That's just my type of guy. I think he's got there was a lot of questions last year with him and the team and the chemistry. I think it was overblown. I think John Tortorella's won the locker room over. I think he's a Philly type of guy. And that team is good, and that team is going to make a little bit of a run. That's my dark horses are the Flyers and the Red Wings. I'm not saying they're winning a cup, but I'm saying playoffs. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if you see the Flyers or the Red Wings make a run, and it's fun to kind of watch from the outside. Some of those teams.
It could happen. It could happen. We were talking about this earlier too. Tor's worried about goaltending. Maybe Swayman could end up there. I don't know.
There you go.
Who said that new rookie? There was something that happened. I think during preseason practice where he attempted a Michigan. He didn't make it.
I think that was was that the Flyer kid?
Yeah.
Yes, it was the Flyer kid.
And Torts was like, what the
But you know what?
Because he's like, get the puck.
Let me tell you something. John Tortorella, okay, fellow Paisan. Yeah. John Tortorella, 10 years ago, would have cut that rookie.
Exactly.
But I think John Tortorella is entering his
soft era?
His
tolerant era?
Softer era.
Yeah.
I really believe John Tortorella, I mean, you see it all the time. I mean, people naturally, as they get older, people, I always say people don't change, they adjust. I really believe that John Tortorella, who I've heard from people is a great guy.
Yeah.
He gets a bad rap because he's fiery and this and that, and God forbid you're fiery in this day and age.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I think John Tortorella is in his Zen era.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to be, doing yoga with you, but I'm saying I think he's I think he's realizing the generation he's dealing with now. And I think he's
it's a
made
skills generation.
You could tell just in the offseason. I watched a lot of his interviews. He had the Goudreau brothers' father in that skate.
Oh, yeah.
He's showing a little side of himself that
he's showing some heart,
which is probably always been there. It's just the media will let you know what they want you to know. But I'm telling you, the Flyers, they scare me. They scare me.
I think he's accepting the fact that, as we were saying earlier, that this generation that's so talented skills-wise and speed-wise, they're going to be attempting things like a Michigan goal. However, is it easier to expand their game or try to reprogram them all together into blue-collar hockey players, or kind of like make them more well-rounded and get the best of both worlds?
And that's what I said. Like, when I saw that clip of that kid attempting that, I was like, oh, my God. Because if that was 10 years ago, they would have cut him. Tortorella would be like, get rid of him. I don't want. But he's like, I just think, you get to that age where you just don't care anymore. Well, I think I'm already there at 38. I don't care anymore. But I think he's at that age, not that he doesn't care anymore, but I just think he's like, I got to adjust. This
is what we're working with.
And
how are we going to get the best out of it?
I'm telling you, the Flyers are a scary team.
I would say that. Yeah, I would agree with you.
And I think they're all in on Tortorella. I think they got some really good young players. So we're going to see what happens. I think we got
to look at Chicago.
Well, yeah.
I think we got to look at Chicago. I think who's over there now? Bertuzzi?
Yes, that's right.
Bertuzzi playing, right there alongside Bedard.
Yes.
Bertuzzi's a net hanger. He's going to be right there. He's gritty. He's greasy. I mean, we loved him on the Bruins. That's going to be really interesting. I think we're going to see some really good hockey there.
I listen. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the show. It's like you got these vets on the last ride. You got this huge new generational wave, and it's a lot of parity in the league. I mean, even the quote bad teams are going to be entertaining to watch because some of these young guns are just unreal.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Well, who are the bad teams? Who are going to be our
I guess they say the Sharks. They're going to say the Sharks. But they got the Celebrini kid that.
What about Utah? Exciting. What do we think about Utah? That's going to be interesting. They just
first
named their captain
first
the
of
other
all,
day.
Utah Hockey Club. I mean,
Clayton Keller is going to be the first captain of the Utah Hockey Club.
Listen, I don't. Utah Hockey Club. I know they're going to change the name next year, but why couldn't you just have a name ready? I'm weird like that. Like, why do you have
to sit out like that?
Why did you do that?
And it's like Yeti, I think. Is
I would love that. I think that's cool.
That'd be a great jersey.
I think that would be a sick jersey. But I just, I think it's exciting. Anytime there's an expansion, I mean, they absolutely
for the fans' sake, you gotta hype it up.
I think it's great. I think Utah is a perfect city for the NHL. Yeah. I think they made the right move with Utah. But it's like, they didn't wake up and decide. They knew this was coming. Why couldn't you just had a name ready? Like, I'm OCD.
Yeah.
Announce
it. Like today, we're recording in advance, right? So as of today, right now, announce it in time for the day.
Could you imagine they came out for their first game and they were the Yeti or whoever?
Maybe when this airs, we'll be celebrating.
Yeah, but I just like you did the right things. Mm-hmm. You went to a good city. I think it's going to support NHL hockey. Yeah. It's new, it's fresh and exciting, but. And I know there's a lot of people out there saying, I like the Utah Hockey. They're saying that. They're trying to. You don't like the Utah Hockey Club.
No.
Don't tell me you like the Utah Hockey Club. So
listen, if you and I were in charge, we would have a whole line of merch
You have
already.
to have it ready. I don't know.
We
That's
would have
like,
the Utah Yeti dancers.
I know.
We'd have some
the Yeti girls, yes. The Yeti chicks or whatever. Oh, my goodness. But I'm interested to see it. My boy Liam O'Brien, I follow him on Instagram. Tough guy. We talk. He's a trasher guy. I think he's going to be a fan favorite. Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, it's listen, typically, I mean, it didn't, this didn't apply to Vegas, but typically a first year franchise, they don't have crazy success, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah,
they have
Utah can actually take swayman. Last night I was looking to prepare for this the teams that still have the cap space that could afford what he's looking for. Utah is right there. So
tell you what, if I'm Boston, you know what? Utah might be the right fit because if they don't have success, get that draft pick. You know what I mean?
Bounce him or take it another goalie.
Okay. Hot seat. Not really a hot seat, but yes or no? I mean, one word answer. Where Is Swayman signing in Boston or no?
I believe he will.
Okay, I do too.
I believe he will. But I think it's going to be hard coming back from this. Well,
I tell you can't do that type of stuff in Boston. A blue collar city, blue collar people, and
look how fast Boston turned on Milan Lucic after that incident last year.
Yes.
Like no one even wants to speak his name.
I know it's tough,
and rightfully so. I mean, that's not comparing apples to apples.
I think it's tough when you. I think
that's how quickly we can write them off.
What players don't realize is, and look, I'm all for a player getting every penny he thinks he's worth, but when you're in a city, blue collar city, or anywhere, it doesn't have to be a blue collar city, and athletes don't realize in the eyes of regular people, they're not real people. Like, oh, you're complaining about $60-something million. You know what I mean? Like, they don't understand that people don't care.
Right.
Like, Swayman could have came from nothing. It doesn't matter. Now that you're a success, people don't look at you. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm over here working construction. Okay? I'm fighting this Boston traffic every day. And you're complaining about, a couple million here or there.
But it comes down to the perception of it's not that Boston doesn't want to pay him what he's worth. I think what they're offering him is appropriate, maybe even high compared to the number of games that he's played. Yes, the save percentage is this, but if you compare that to a goalie that has started 75% of their games, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Or the highest paid goalies in the league right now, many of whom have cups already or have made serious cup runs and have been carrying that load as a first goalie. I think the perception is that he's just not a team guy.
Yeah.
Because why would you fight over $1.5 million, which at the end of the day is not going to make a bit of difference.
Yeah.
That's when you're talking about like $64 million.
And that's what I say.
At the expense of your team.
And that's what's tough with the media too, is like you're getting two sides of the story. Yeah. And then these other players, these teammates, they could act like they're staying out of it, but they're watching, they're seeing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And they're like, dude, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Gosh,
so
yeah.
it's going to be interesting.
And if you look historically too, I mean, just the culture of the Bruins, which I think is their greatest asset. You had a goalie like Tuukka Rask. He didn't care about the money at some point. And I know that Swayman's at the beginning of his career, but the culture is the culture.
Yeah.
He said, it's about me staying in Boston. I want to finish my career here. Zdeno Chara, who was the captain for years, they did a very creative thing with his contract where everything was backloaded.
Yes.
There are things that you can do.
Like we said, incentives. Yes. I'm big on incentives. I'm like, you know what? If you think you're as good as you are and we think you have we want to give you a fair number, but let's reward you
and
if you hit it.
Negotiate in good faith, you know, and don't let your agent drag this out into the media.
Agents can be rough. So listen, I'm excited. It's going to be a great season.
It's going to be a great time.
Obviously, guys, again, like, subscribe. We're going to be doing all sorts of content, updates. As you guys know, I'm with the Danbury Hat Tricks. I'm going to put a link in the description. Make sure you guys get your season tickets. We're going to have a lot of updates over the next show or two. We're going to be doing a lot of inside stuff with the Hat Tricks. A lot of insider stuff with Mr. Diamond Hands, Daniel Amesbury. And make sure our resident hockey insider, the Miss Bruin herself, at Seriously Jane, we'll put the link in the description. Make sure you guys are following her and talk a little trash to her. She can take it.
Absolutely, yeah. But
she's not like Swayman. She's not going to write down her feelings in the book.
You're not going to hurt my feelings.
She'll give it right back to you guys. So make sure you guys talk a little trash if the Bruins are doing bad.
That's what it's all about.
And Thanks you so much for having on. This won't be the last time. And guys,
always good to see you.
We'll see you guys next week.
Take care.